Well, good morning. It's Alan Hollander, and it's the morning after February the 6th, 2014. My goodness, almost to Valentine's Day. Well, this morning we're going to look at some of the stories behind the headlines, and obviously, what's front of mind for everybody is the weather. Whether you look at the weather reports from the States or from Canada, it doesn't matter where you live, something's happening everywhere. You've got droughts in California, you've got incredible massive snowstorms and ice and ice storms, etc. Everybody's getting hit. Now, I'll tell you, I'm going to start off with the Peachland local weather forecast here, because as I gaze out the window, it's just cloudy. But I tell you, it's cold. And normally I end the morning show here with the 7-day forecast, but I'm going to start out this morning with the forecast because it's cold. And it reminds me, last night I took the dog out for a walk, and it was about 10:30 at night, just for a walk around the complex here, and the wind was just biting, and it just reminded me of the prairies. I know we all say we used to walk around in the prairies when it was 40 below. We had our long underwear on and everything else, and the word frostbite, was always prevalent because with the wind and that, you could freeze your fingers, freeze your face, whatever. But at any rate, I haven't experienced this kind of frigid cold since the prairies. At any rate, everybody's getting hit, including Vancouver and Victoria, who always rave about the fact it's never that cold. Anyways, it's minus 14 right now outside my door here in Peachland, British Columbia, Canada. Those of you listening around the world, if you're in Australia, you're probably still experiencing summer. And it was in the 80s in Florida yesterday, probably the only place that it's warm. I even heard in Palm Springs it was only about 68 or so, and they're expecting some rain in San Francisco. They could really use it, especially in the Napa Valley, but I doubt it's going to solve their drought problem. We have a national emergency there. But the weather here today, it's minus 14, and the winds are about 5 kilometers an hour, but you just feel that little breeze off the lake, and it's cold. It's going to be only reach a high of minus 9 this afternoon. It's going to be sunny. And then tonight it's going to clear up, and we'll have a low of around 13 to 14 degrees. It's going to feel like minus 17. Now, that's just the overnight low tonight. Then on Friday, we're going to have cloudy periods, a low of minus 14, a high of minus 7. On Saturday, mainly sunny, a high of only minus 6, and a low of minus 15. Then it starts to warm up a little. Sunday, February. On Sunday, it's going to be mainly sunny with a high of minus 3 and a low of minus 12. And then on Monday, we're going to get some variable clouds moving in and a low of minus 10 and a high of minus 3. And then by the time we hit Tuesday of next week, we're out of it. It's going to be a high of 3 degrees. It's above zero, folks. Overnight low of only minus 6. And that's when we're going to get some scattered snow flurries in here moving in. And then that's going to be on. I've lost track now. Here, where are we? Then on Wednesday of next week, we're going to experience snow and rain showers mixed by next Wednesday, and a high of 5. So you see, we're out of it by then. And then on the 13th, next Thursday, it'll be 5 degrees and so forth. So at any rate, I think if we can get through this week and manage to get through the cold by the weekend, then certainly by next week, things are going to improve. All right, so there's your weather forecast. And speaking of the weather, there is a rather large snowstorm that could wallop BC on Family Day, which is the long weekend coming up this Monday. And the reports say that we can expect a snowstorm on Family Day that should hit anytime Sunday or Monday, Environment Canada says. The timing, potential accumulations in affected areas are still not clear, but the Weather Service says the storm is headed directly to BC's south coast and the southwest interior of the province. Well, that would include us. in Southwest Interior, but I haven't heard our local weather forecast isn't talking about that. At any rate, Environment Canada says it will issue further information Friday and will update warnings within 24 hours of the first flurries. While the details are still unclear, forecasters say they are confident this storm will greatly impact the south coast and the southwest interior of the province. We suggest that everyone potentially affected by this storm through travel or otherwise begin making plans B and C for the weekend, Environment Canada said in a written statement to meteorologists. Well, that's news to me. That's just hot off the wire here. That was posted 6:50 last night. More details. This is read more. It said read. Well, let me see here. More details of the alert, but latest special. Okay, there have been no recent alerts. Okay, so I guess we're not going to see this alert until Friday, till tomorrow, and we'll bring you an update. More news. What happened overnight while you were sleeping? Martin St. Louis was brought in to replace Steven Stamkos on the men's Olympic hockey team. Kind of knew that might happen. And what else is happening in the sports world, of course? The Canucks, the Knuckleheads, are aiming to avoid their 6th consecutive defeat, which I believe it would be a club record if they lose in Montreal tonight. So that's going to be an interesting game to watch. All right, what else have we got here? Overnight. Well, okay, here's to no surprise. You know, you wonder why they even bother with these commissions and focus groups and public sessions, and they ask for the community input. And then whoever they are, the they people, go ahead and do whatever they want anyways. That happened when we lived in Vancouver. It happened all the time with Gregor Robertson and his Vision crew. It was a very totalitarian scenario, and I'm beginning to really start wondering about what it is about our individual right and our individual, ability to make an impact. It almost seems like the cards are stacked against you because despite all the public input and despite everything with Vision, whether it's community centers or bike lanes, they had all these open forums and input from people. Then they went in and did what they were going to do anyways. So it's just a terrible excuse for democracy to just simply say to people, well, we gave you a chance to talk, but we still went ahead and did it anyways. So they're not really listening to you. It's just to pacify you. And I don't know whether it's a symptomatic of our country or it's just symptomatic of what's going on today, but it's got to stop somewhere. BC Ferries cut $19 million in services. The transportation minister says the reduction will better align service with demand. That's kind of like when somebody fires you from a job and they say we're actually downsizing, capsizing, right-sizing. We're moving in a different direction. We're streamlining. We're better aligning our services with the demand, blah, 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 blah. Sorry, folks, it's the internet, but I have to call it like it is. It's very non-Zen-like for me to say bullshit, but anyways, that's really what it amounts to, this blah, blah, blah. And so you have a situation where, despite all of that, they go ahead and make the decisions on their own anyway. So here's the Ferries, having this input from people and then cutting the services by $19 million. And so bottom line is, like I say, when somebody downsizes you, capsizes you, right-sizes, basically what they're saying to you is you're fired. But nobody uses those terms. So the BC Ferries is going ahead with nearly $19 million in service reductions despite widespread opposition. Okay? Like everybody was against it. But we're here, we're going to ask people for their opinion. Everybody's against it. They came back and told us they're against it. Thank you very much, but we're going to go ahead anyways. What the heck does that say about our freedom of expression, our right to express ourselves? I don't know. If you have an answer for me, let me know, because I get very confused. The province confirmed it will be cutting minor and northern ferry routes and implementing changes to major routes beginning in late April. My wife and I are so grateful we didn't buy our retirement home on the island, because we would have been up. Well, I'll just tell you what's happening. I mean, it's more bad news for us seniors to travel. They've cut out the senior discount. Anyways, better alignment of service levels to the demand. That's the BS. While protecting basic levels of service is necessary to ensure a coastal ferry service that's affordable, efficient, and sustainable. Oh, I love that word, sustainable. Everybody uses sustainable. It's like green. Green was so popular. Everybody used to talk about, we're green and you're not. We're sustainable and you're not. So, sustainable for future generations. This is according to, who's the new head guy? The new voice. The robotic voice, Transportation Minister Todd Stone. BC Ferries said it will be meeting with community representatives to determine the schedules of affected minor and northern routes, which the government estimates will result in $14 million in net savings. Changes could include eliminating midday sailings while retaining early morning or late evening sailings. Meanwhile, service reductions to major routes, including Tawasin to Swartz Bay, Tawasin to Duke Point, and Horseshoe Bay to Departure Bay, will be announced by the end of March and are expected to save $4.9 million. So there you go. They're going to save some money, but if you want to get on that ferry, you better get there fast. And if it's overloaded, you might be spending the night with your relatives, because there won't be any more service for you there won't be a ferry for you to take. So that means a hotel room. Or it could mean a stay with relative. If you're not staying with relatives, you're sleeping in your car or your whatever. I don't know. Anyways, there you go. There is one route, however, that will see an increase in service. So if you're going to Bella Coola, the summer service between the northern communities will increase from 1 sailing per week to 3 or 4 sailings per week. So where's the greatest population? It's obviously. Vancouver's swelling at the seams, breaking out at the seams with population from the burbs, and they're all trying to get over to the island. But no, that isn't where we're going. We're going to focus our attention on Bella Coola. What we're trying to do here is to try to squeeze out of the system the underutilization where it makes sense, trying to be as respectful as we possibly can be with respect to what coastal communities need. Since when did the government actually respect what the community says or wants? It just isn't there. Seniors, the seniors discount. All of you listening to me in Peachland right now, who are over the age of 65, the seniors discount has been slashed. BC Ferries is also moving ahead with a reduction to the seniors discount. Currently, people 65 and older walk on for free. Starting April 1st, however, they will be required to pay a half-price passenger fare Monday to Thursday on major and minor routes. They will continue to pay full price for their vehicles. So much for your reward for being a tax-paying citizen in this province for years and investing in the infrastructure. And there's a slap on your face. It's like being an employee, for 50 years in a company, and then thank you very much. Here's your watch. You're fired. We're downsizing, capsizing, right-sizing. Loyalty means nothing anymore in many circles. It's very, very unfortunate. So the minister has announced cuts to the seniors discount in November, generating strong public opposition. Here we go. The public who elected them is opposed to it, from critics who insist the move unfairly targets a vulnerable population. Amen to that. Meanwhile, BC Ferries announced in January it would be hiking fares 3.5% on most routes to accommodate the rising cost of diesel fuel. On Wednesday, it said revenue from a reduced seniors discount will prevent future fare increases. In other words, we're going to take away the seniors discount, and then we're going to tell you now that it's going to prevent future fare increases. We're not saying we guarantee we're not going to increase the fares, which they probably will down the road, but it says it'll prevent. So let's take it from the pockets of the seniors, the most vulnerable people who don't have the money to afford to go back and forth on the ferry to visit their grandkids or whatever. And thank you very much, but we're gonna help us to pay offset fare increases. Very, very interesting. The province also confirmed it will pursue a gaming pilot project. So we're going to bring gambling onto the ferries. In November, when the idea of installing slot machines on ferries was first announced, the government said the pilot project would start with the Tawasin to Swartz Bay run. This, too, has attracted widespread opposition as the number of severely addicted gamblers has risen in BC in recent years. Do you think? And on that point, obviously we're discussing that this morning on the show only because it just happened, and it affects us here in BC. There was an announcement the other day by the government that they're going to, and she announced it with great delight. It was the gal who was going to run for mayor in Vancouver. I'm sorry, her name just slips my mind right now. With great delight, she announced that you could now order a gin and tonic at the hockey game in Vancouver, at the Canucks game. You can order hard liquor now. Can you imagine MAD, the Mothers Against Drunk Drivers? Can you imagine what they're thinking now and how they're feeling? That the government would actually say, let's bring in more booze to these hockey games where most people just tank up anyways and walk off into Granville Street in a drunken stupor from either beer. Well, now we'll not just give them beer, we'll give them hard liquor too to make them even drunker. And she announced it just with a smile and a happiness about it. So there they are promoting more booze, more drinking, more potential for drunk drivers in the province and in Vancouver in particular. And now they're talking about let's add to that by getting gamblers. Let's take money away from those severely addicted gamblers. I don't understand the direction we're heading, whether that makes any real sense. But here's the key point of this whole process. The consultation process itself was a sham. The government's announcement follows 2 months. Hear me, folks. 2 months of public consultation and is summarized in the 2013 BC Coastal Ferries Engagement Summary Report. There we go, with another study, another report. Okay? However, some critics are questioning the sincerity of the engagement process because many of the changes are going forward despite overwhelming opposition. I have to have a drink of water now. It's clear to me, this is from, now I realize it's the opposition, okay? It's coming from an NDP MLA. Ignore the fact that this is politically motivated. People always use that. Even the Conservatives say, the NDP are using this as a political thing. Would you just stop listening to them when they say that? Because what they're doing is they're covering up, okay? So let's just go with the facts and go with reality. Okay, so the reality is that there was a process. And the process, the consultation process, the people spoke volumes about being opposed to it. So here's from the NDP MLA Nicholas Simons. Let's just say Nicholas Simons. Let's not even call him NDP. Nicholas Simons, private citizen elected to the NDP party, but is an individual. Nicholas Simons says, it's clear to me that the consultation process was a sham. And he's absolutely right. The people were asked to come out and provide their input and opinion into the government's plans. They were completely ignored. How familiar is that? It happens in Vancouver all the time, with the Vision Council, with Robertson. It happens every time they talk about community centers, bike lanes. It doesn't matter. They ram it through no matter what you're saying. So we are being ignored as a citizenry when we get this message. That's what's happening. Okay? So Simon said that the government is ignoring the serious impacts ferry service reductions will have on coastal communities, including in his Powell River Sunshine Coast riding. He said many high school students will no longer be able to take part in music or after-school sports because the ferries will not run late enough for them to get home. This has a huge impact on the lifestyle of our communities, and that's what this government failed to hear. In 2012, BC Ferries were facing a funding shortfall of $114 million per year within 5 years. The government insists the changes announced Wednesday are necessary to protect long-term ferry services. It will release specific details of route changes in late March, and implementation will begin in late April. Well, here's what will happen typically in our wonderful, beautiful country of Canada. People will say now, you see, we brought the Liberals in. You see, this is what they're doing. You wait till the next election, and we'll get them out. And there's a constant waiting period. We wait. Everybody in Canada waits for the next election. waits for the next election. And then when nobody comes out to votes and young people say, we don't care because nothing really changes and we're not going to vote, and they don't vote, they don't go out. Terrible. We have a terrible voting record in Canada. Only something like 42% of the population votes. Some cases in the municipal elections it's 33%, 23%, 15%. It's disgraceful. So you get what you see and you have what you have. And so, I love the bumper sticker now that we're kind of, I sort of said we should create this in Peachland, because when I came to Peachland, I parked all of this anger and frustration on the other side of the mountain, because I said to people, when I move here, I just want to retire. I want to leave my anger over there and frustration, which it's a very angry energy in Vancouver right now. Very dysfunctional, very angry. People are upset. You can see it on the highways and byways. People drive by, the slightest little maneuver in your car and somebody's upset, they give you the finger. People in bike lanes give you the finger. They yell at you. There's road rage in Vancouver. The road rage in Vancouver is epidemic, and everybody knows that lives in Vancouver. As to whether it gets to the point where people actually walk out of their car and beat the heck out of somebody, that's happened too. But I'm just saying that's the energy there. So when you come here to Peachland, it's a wonderful, relaxed, meditative place. I look out at the lake and I walk around and I say to people, this is magical. So you take a deep breath, and I think we should just put a bumper sticker. It says, we don't care, we live in Peachland. That doesn't mean we don't care about the rest of the world, but we don't care. We love it here. Our bumper sticker says, we don't care, we live in Peachland. So it's time, I think, for all of us to just let all that go, okay? Like, let all this is live radio and the phone's ringing. Anyway, that was somebody calling from Vancouver saying, help, get me out of here. Anyways, that's what's happening there. And we need to just focus right here in the here and now with each our own individual communities. That was my point I was trying to make before I was interrupted by that live phone call. And by the way, one day we are going to have open lines here. We are going live and local, by the way, in May. Just so you know, those of you who have been following the radio station, this is kind of our preview week of all our programs. We're testing out all our broadcast site. We're into a real beta phase, as they call it in the industry. And we're ramping up over the next 3 months, heading into May, when we will flip the switch and we will be live and local with our programming. So you'll be hearing me live. We'll be able to take some phone calls, emails. We'll have a decent morning show. But at any rate, my point is this, that we just need to take responsibility for not only ourselves and our own well-being, but also our community's well-being, because this is where we live. Forget about what's going on in the rest of the province with the provincial government or the federal government, because there's so much for us to deal with. We can't possibly deal with it all. At one point when I wrote my book on Zentrepreneurism, which I've been featuring at different, on the website, I took 2 years out. I wanted to change the way the world does business, from one of greed and power and corruption to one of creating profits with integrity and serving a life of purpose. And really, that's, after 2 years of that, writing that book, that's what I came to the conclusion, was that we can only be responsible for ourselves. Let's stop this nonsense in Canada of every time something comes up, we say, is that a provincial or federal responsibility? That's what we say. We don't say this is my responsibility. We immediately say there's just too much news about the government. And I'm going to try and avoid this now from this point on. Really, I'm going to try and report less on the government, unless it's the kinds of things that I tell you about, I try to alert you to with Stephen Harper and his government and some of the corruption that's going on. One hopes that there is a political God karma somewhere that's going to pay attention to what's going on and deal with these people. But beyond that, I don't think we can. So we just have to deal with these things ourselves and make the best we can of our own individual lives. Enough of that said. Just trying to gauge here. I'm down to my last couple of minutes, so I don't know. I could give you the usual run of the mill stuff. Justin Bieber, once again in the news, allegedly abusing his jet staff. What was a private jet that was flying him? What's disturbing about that? His dad was on the plane, and they were smoking marijuana and drinking heavily, and I mean that's basically what, to me, what came out of that is there he is. His dad's on. I think that's what the report says. Trouble continued with Justin Bieber. He was on a flight, a Gulfstream private jet flight. The incident was obtained. The flight attendant stated that the passengers, including Bieber and his father, Jeremy Bieber, were extremely abusive verbally, and she would not work another flight with them. Well, maybe there's the problem. Maybe this dad is the problem. Who knows? It might be, because something, obviously this 19-year-old doesn't have any, there's no tough love going on in his family. And if you're enabling him, if you're on the flight with him and enabling him, maybe we need to look at the dad now. Okay, I think that's it. Just one last note about the awards season here in Peachland is upon us. We have our own little version of Hollywood. That's right. We get to have a little glitz and glamour here. This year, the Peachland Chamber of Commerce Business Excellent Awards Night, which I'm happy to say I'll be emceeing, has moved from the fall to the spring, the same time of year when the district hosts its annual Spirit of Peachland Civic Awards ceremony. The Business Excellence Awards will take place on Saturday, March 8th, while the date for the Civic Awards has yet to be confirmed. Having the two at the same time of year has resulted in a bit of an award season in Peachland, which creates an opportunity for all of us to reflect on some of the great individuals and businesses that make up this community. However, the process only works if people engage with it. So this year, we're all urging citizens to think about nominating an individual or business that makes Peachland life just a little bit better. And that's what it's all about, folks. That's what I said to you. Let's focus on ourselves and our community. Awards events create an opportunity to acknowledge outstanding individuals or businesses that make a difference in this community, and let's give them the recognition they deserve. And it's true, if you don't engage with the community through volunteer work or through membership in a community group, nominating someone who does is a great way to contribute to the community, especially for those who prefer to do so in a more quiet, behind-the-scenes sort of way. So, the final day for Business Awards nominations is February the 14th. That's Valentine's Day. And the last day for Civic Award nominations is March the 14th. So, get out there and vote for your favorite business in Peachland. And I think that's a wrap. And I know we always follow up by saying stay tuned for the rest of the story. We're having some difficulties getting our Paul Harvey segment on. I'll give you an alert as to when that's going to happen. But at any rate, listen, have a great day. Bundle up. Minus 14 out there in Peachland. It's going to be cold, cold, cold. Can you say frostbite? Cover your face. Do whatever you need to do, and get something for the dog. We're noticing our little doggy, even though he's got some fur on him, is experiencing, I'm not sure if he really likes the cold. When we take him out, maybe we should put a little coat on him. The dogs don't have a way of telling us that, hey, I'm cold, man. Don't take me out there. They just go with us, and we hope for the best. But maybe it's time we bundled up. If you can make it through to this week, next week looks a lot warmer and better as far as all of us, humans and animals, concerned. All right, have a great day. Enjoy Peachland, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and bye for now. See you tomorrow morning.